Is the Bloodline storyline the greatest WWE story of all time? Well, to find out, I asked ChatGPT a simple question. What are the 5 best WWE storylines in history? And here's what it had to say. At number 5, ChatGPT very interestingly has The Shield, and here's what they had to say. Why it's great. The Shield, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose debuted as a force of nature in WWE, attacking top stars like John Cena, Ryback and CM Punk. Ryback's a strange addition there. Their story of being the Hounds of Justice who sought to restore order in WWE and take down injustice was compelling. The eventual breakup of the Shield and the rise of each member as individual stars, with Rollins turning on the group to align with the Authority, Ambrose's wild, chaotic persona and Reigns' push to the top became some of the most interesting storylines in WWE history. Key moments: the debut of the Shield at Survivor Series 2012, their win at WrestleMania 29 against Kane and Daniel Bryan, and Rollins' betrayal at Extreme Rules 2014. Wasn't it the Raw after Extreme Rules 2014? Either way, I think what ChatGPT is trying to say here is that the Shield storyline itself, in terms of their existence as a group in their first run, was amazing, but ultimately the storylines that it led to following their breakup is what made it even better. The feud between Rollins and Ambrose was probably the best of 2014, barring Daniel Bryan versus the Authority, but then that only really went on for half of 2014, so because obviously Bryan got injured. So I think I understand the point they're making. I really love the Shield. I think they are arguably the best faction in WWE history, despite how short of a time they were together. I'm not personally a fan of their reunions and the 5 million times that they reformed the group just to go and sell some merch or to get one final hurrah when Ambrose was leaving for AEW. So it's not one that immediately would spring to mind when I think of the greatest storylines in WWE history, but I can understand why ChatGPT has included it in their list. At number 4 on their list, ChatGPT has the Montreal Screwjob, and here's what they had to say about it. Why it's great. While not a traditional storyline with weeks of build-up, the Montreal Screwjob between Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon was one of the most controversial and real moments in WWE history. The angle in which Vince McMahon orchestrated a finish to the Survivor Series 1997 match without Bret Hart's knowledge sparked real-life animosity and set the stage for the Mr. McMahon character. It blurred the lines between reality and scripted entertainment, forever changing the business. Key moments: Bret Hart being screwed out of the title, the infamous tap out in the sharpshooter, and the fallout from the incident. So this is, as ChatGPT alluded to, not as such a storyline and more a moment. If you're not familiar with the Montreal Screwjob, first of all, how are you watching this video? Second of all, basically, Bret's contract was up. He was more than likely leaving to WCW, but the problem was he was the current WWE champion. WWE and Vince wanted him to drop that title to Shawn Michaels. However, Survivor Series was taking place in Canada, Bret Hart's home country, and he didn't want to lose the title to Shawn Michaels in Canada. So basically, Vince went out of his way, took matters into his own hands and forced this result, coining the term the Montreal Screwjob, giving Shawn Michaels the title when Bret never tapped out from the sharpshooter as well, which is just a little bit more salt in the wound of the story. But nevertheless, as I said, more of a moment than a storyline. However, similarly to the Shield story that we touched on just before, I think what makes this one of the best storylines in WWE history is what followed it and the characters and stories that were formed as a result of this storyline. Most importantly of all, the Mr. McMahon character, which, as we will probably touch on in a little bit, I'll be very surprised if we didn't, is arguably the greatest heel character of all time and gave us some iconic moments and storylines as well. But nonetheless, a hugely important storyline within WWE and the wider professional wrestling context, and deservedly has its place on ChatGPT's list. At number 3 on the list, ChatGPT has The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, specifically from 2009 to 2010. And here's what they had to say. Great, the feud between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels culminated in 2 of the most emotionally powerful WrestleMania matches in history. The storyline centered on The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, with Shawn Michaels trying to be the man to end it. Their matches at WrestleMania 25 and WrestleMania 26 are considered some of the best in WWE history, with Michaels' desperation and Undertaker's dominance creating a perfect narrative. Key moments: the WrestleMania 25 match with its incredible near falls, Michaels' retirement match at WrestleMania 26, and the emotional build-up with Michaels' obsession with ending the streak. Now, this is one I fully expected to be on this list, and as someone who was born in the early 2000s, this is one of the sort of first feuds that I properly got to see on television as I was getting into wrestling, and my God, what a fantastic storyline it is. First of all, the WrestleMania 25 match is better than the WrestleMania 26 match, I would say, and arguably the best WWE match potentially of all time. I think no matter whether you think it's the best or not, it's certainly up there in the conversation to be the best. Definitely top 5, if not even higher, and arguably the best. Following that match, which of course The Undertaker won, holding on to his streak, I think that first match put him at 17-0, the first one, and then the second one was 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, 17-0 for the first match. And then coming out of that, the Slammy Awards, when I think it was Match of the Year that Shawn and Undertaker won, when Michaels cut that beautiful promo saying he made one single mistake and it cost him everything. He knew he could beat The Undertaker and he wanted that rematch at next year's WrestleMania, and Undertaker would make him put his career on the line if he wanted that match, which eventually he did and he got. But we also had moments like the Royal Rumble, where Undertaker was the World Heavyweight Champion. Michaels went into the Royal Rumble to obviously try and win the Rumble, and then he could guarantee himself a WrestleMania match with The Undertaker. There was some beautiful storytelling from Michaels as a character here, with his sheer desperation to win the match. The beautiful spot of his elimination, where he's just desperately trying to cling on to the ropes and he's scratching at them as he's just barged off of the apron by Batista. And then another fantastic moment with Taker defending his championship in the Elimination Chamber. Shawn Michaels climbing through the grate that surrounds the ring of the chamber to hit Taker with Sweet Chin Music. Cost him the World Heavyweight Championship, which I think went to Chris Jericho in that match, which, yes, because that was another little beautiful cherry on the cake, because in 2009, Michaels and Jericho had one of the best feuds of the 2000s. So the fact that Michaels would let Jericho win the title just amplified how obsessed he was with The Undertaker, and he would do anything he could to get that match with Taker, which of course ultimately led to the retirement match. And yeah, just fantastic work between the two of them. Not much else to say. It's just two of the best to ever do it, having one of the best ever feuds in the WWE, and very deservedly at number 3 on this list. At number 2, ChatGPT has The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from 1999 to 2003. Why it's great: the rivalry between The Rock and Austin transcended just a wrestling feud. It became a generational clash of two of the most charismatic superstars in WWE history. Their rivalry played out through multiple WrestleMania matches, including the legendary bouts at WrestleMania 15, 17, and 19. The Rock and Austin were the face and anti-hero of their respective fan bases, and their chemistry in the ring and on the microphone made for compelling storytelling. Key moments: the WrestleMania 17 match, the turn of Austin at WrestleMania 17, although the less said about that, the better really, and their eventual face-off in the WrestleMania 19 main event. Really quickly though, Stone Cold's career is so strange because he did so much in what in the grand scheme of things is actually such a really short period of time, which just goes to show how incredible he was. But nonetheless, this storyline absolutely, yes, deserves its place on this list. Before my time in life, so not one that I got to see happen live and in person at the time of it happening, but of course it's one that I've gone back and watched many times, especially their WrestleMania matches, because how could you not? They're some of the most important in the WWE. It's more of a storyline of just two of the biggest superstars on the planet at the time, not just in the WWE. That's how big wrestling was in the 90s. And just, yeah, putting two of the biggest stars in the ring together and just letting them create magic. Rock and Austin are not only two of the best wrestlers of all time within the WWE, not in terms of technical professional wrestling, but in terms of character work and their sort of larger than life personality. When you put those two together, you just get fireworks, you get magic, and it's fantastic. 3 WrestleMania main events between the two at 15, 17 and 19. Are they the only ones who have done that? Or have Roman and Brock definitely did 3, didn't they? 31, 34 and 38. Yeah. So forget that. But nonetheless, one of the only people to have done 3 WrestleMania main events, which just goes to show how significant of a rivalry this was, sort of destined to do it forever. And yeah, just 2 of the best to ever do it, and one of the best stories in professional wrestling and in WWE. And at number 1, to I think the surprise of absolutely no one, ChatGPT has Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon from 1997 to 1999. Here's what they had to say. Why it's great: this is arguably the most iconic WWE storyline of all time. The rivalry between Stone Cold Steve Austin, the rebellious anti-hero, and Vince McMahon, the tyrannical boss, became the centerpiece of the Attitude Era. Austin's defiance of authority, including memorable moments like the beer truck incident and the infamous Austin McMahon I Quit match, made it a defining feud. The storyline was instrumental in transforming the WWE into a mainstream powerhouse and is often credited with helping win the Monday Night Wars against WCW. Key moments: Austin stunning McMahon, Austin driving a beer truck to the ring, and Austin winning the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 14. So we touched on this storyline earlier, and coming out of the Montreal Screwjob, we now had the Mr. McMahon character. And as I said, probably the best heel in professional wrestling history. Combine that with arguably the best face in professional wrestling history, and you just have the perfect feud. A feud that everyone on the planet could relate to, especially at the time. You had the annoying, narcissistic, tyrannical boss, and the person who everyone who had a job and had a boss who they didn't like wanted to be. Someone who just didn't care, did whatever they want, punched their boss about, did literally anything that they could to make their boss's life a living hell. And it just created the perfect storyline between the two of them. So many iconic moments within an iconic feud is what I think makes this such an amazing storyline. Ignoring the ones that they mentioned with Austin stunning McMahon, even though Vince could never sell a stunner to save his life, and it really bugged me. Why couldn't he learn to sell a stunner? Austin with the beer truck, winning the WWF Championship. So many moments from this feud that just all put together created such a perfect face versus heel dynamic, and it was just one that went on and on and on for a good few years, and yeah, was just fantastic storytelling, long-term storytelling as well. The heel turn where Stone Cold turned heel at WrestleMania 17, I think, and aligned with Vince. Probably the less we say about that, the better, because it sort of tanked their ratings, I think, when Austin turned heel, because, you know, the fans no longer had this perfect babyface to root for. But more significantly than any storytelling within the WWE or any character development, this feud was the main driving point in WWE winning the Monday Night Wars, and without that, WWE might not be here today. At the time of this feud starting, WCW were caning WWE in the ratings. I can't remember how many weeks in a row it was. Like 83 weeks is the number that's in my head that WCW beat WWE Raw in the ratings. Nitro for WCW, of course. And Austin's storyline with Vince just drove WWE back in front and kept them there forever and to this day as the prominent #1 wrestling showcase within the entire world. So for that reason and all of the reasons I've mentioned, I think very, very deservedly, Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon finds itself at #1 on ChatGPT's list. Now, you may have noticed that despite the title of this video, there's been no mention of the Bloodline in ChatGPT's list. So why is that? I'm going to ask ChatGPT and we'll find out why. So I asked ChatGPT, is the Bloodline story the best in WWE history? And here's what they said. The Bloodline story in WWE is widely regarded as one of the most captivating and intricate storylines in recent history, and it has been lauded by fans, critics, and wrestlers alike. However, whether it's the best in WWE history can be subjective, depending on personal preferences and how you define best. Here are a few reasons why the Bloodline storyline is considered among the best. #1, long-term storytelling. The Bloodline angle, particularly the rise of Roman Reigns as the tribal chief, has been a masterclass in long-term storytelling. It's evolved over several years with subtle storytelling threads dating back to 2020 when Roman turned heel and aligned himself with Paul Heyman. The slow burn and intricate build-up have kept fans invested for a long time. #2, character development. Roman Reigns' transformation into the tribal chief has been one of the most compelling character arcs in recent memory. He went from being a polarizing figure to the most dominant heel in WWE, showcasing his strength as a top-tier performer both in the ring and on the microphone. The inclusion of the Usos and Solo Sikoa as part of his faction has created a dynamic that fans love. The Usos' rise from tag team stalwarts to the honorary Uso storyline with Sami Zayn was a huge part of the success. Sami Zayn's involvement, particularly in 2022 to 2023, added layers of emotion, humour, and drama to the plot. His betrayal of Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble was a pivotal moment that helped elevate the story further. Emotional investment. The Bloodline storyline, especially with Sami Zayn's betrayal, created a huge emotional payoff for fans. Zayn's betrayal of Roman at the Royal Rumble, his subsequent friendship with Kevin Owens, and the dramatic climax at WrestleMania 39, where Owens and Zayn defeated the Usos, was a moment of high drama that resonated deeply with fans. 4. Unpredictability. The storyline has kept fans guessing from whether or not Jey Uso would ultimately side with Roman or rebel, to whether Sami Zayn was going to remain loyal to the Bloodline or turn on Roman. The shifts in alliances, betrayals, and moments of tension within the group have created compelling, unpredictable television. And 5, historical significance. The storyline plays on real-life history, particularly in the Anoa'i family's legacy in wrestling. The Bloodline storyline brings that legacy into the forefront, with Roman Reigns positioned as the head of the table in a dominant wrestling dynasty. So what, in my opinion, makes the Bloodline storyline so amazing? I think, as ChatGPT mentioned, first of all, you have to look at the characters involved. What this whole storyline has given us is Roman Reigns as the tribal chief. Probably the best character turn or development that I can remember in my lifetime, at least. Taking him from the big dog that fans were just tired to death of being shoved down our throats by the WWE, to this larger than life huge main event caliber person who was the ultimate box office attraction. He has really become modern day WWE's Hogan, Austin, Rock. He's what they were back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. He is the 2020s equivalent within the WWE. That is how massive Roman Reigns has become. And even looking past the main part of the story, which is of course Roman, the Usos went from, an amazing tag team who were, already looked at as one of the best in WWE history to what I think now we can firmly say is probably the greatest tag team in WWE history. It gave us not only a fantastic tag team, but two individuals who had a chance to tell stories finally without just being confined to the context of a tag team feud. It gave us main event Jey Uso, who even right now is probably maybe the most over face on the entire roster. So I think Roman's still not a face. He's still in that tweener position. Is over as hell, don't get me wrong. But as a pure white meat babyface, I think Jey is probably arguably more over than Cody Rhodes, which says a lot considering Cody is the face of the company. And outside of those and Roman, we've got Sami Zayn, who went on the run of his WWE career as part of the Bloodline. It gave us so many just fantastic individual moments involving Sami Zayn. It seemed like he was just on a one-man mission to make every single member of the Bloodline break character whenever he could, through just amazing humor. Moments like saying that Jey wasn't feeling very Usi is probably the main one that sticks in the mind. Just fantastic moments. And it gave us Sami Zayn as what he should have always been within the WWE, as just a fantastic babyface, the ultimate underdog who everyone cared about. And that pop at the Royal Rumble when Zayn finally turned on Roman Reigns, hitting him in the back with a steel chair, very similar to the Shield's breakup, which was a nice little chef's kiss, beautiful little touch. That pop at the Royal Rumble was just gargantuan. It was a fantastic pop, which really went to show how desperate people were for Sami Zayn to break out of the group, to go on his own, to turn face, and maybe should have won the Rumble that year, maybe should have been the one to beat Roman for the title. But, maybe that's a story for another video. Nonetheless, it also, should mention, gave us Solo Sikoa, which, nowadays he is the leader of the new Bloodline, which involves the Tongans, Jacob Fatu. So Solo is now a main event star. He is pretty much in the main event of every single SmackDown, every single week, which, would you have said that about him 3 years ago? I don't think so. He's given us now Jacob Fatu, who is genuinely fantastic. I think ultimately more than anyone, especially within this new Bloodline story, he's the one who's going to come out being the ultimate star, who I can see main eventing WrestleManias in a few years to come. And it's just an ever evolving masterpiece in long-term storytelling, where every little thread ends up coming back in, tying together to another little thread, and it's just fantastic. And now we're back into the main crutches. We've got the original Bloodline back together, the Usos, Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. Maybe we rushed getting there a little bit. I think we could have had a bit more of a apologetic side to Roman, especially to Sami Zayn and to Jey Uso. But nonetheless, we've got the original Bloodline back together. We are almost certain going to have a War Games match. Whether there's a fifth member added to those teams, I'm not sure. The return of Paul Heyman, whenever that happens, I think that pop will be monumental. Speaking of pops, when Heyman properly turned on Solo Sikoa, it's such an underrated pop because it's not in a match, it's not a big physical moment, but the moment where Heyman says to Solo, "You're not my tribal chief." Go and listen to that pop. It is mental how loud that arena goes for it. So when Heyman comes back, that'll be fantastic. Everything will be fantastic. It's just a really good storyline. And we haven't even mentioned The Rock and what role he's going to have, potentially at War Games, potentially at WrestleMania in a match with Roman, potentially with Cody. Who knows where we're going to go, and I'm just very excited for it. Nonetheless, ChatGPT had a little bit more to say. How does it compare to other top storylines in WWE history? While the Bloodline storyline is incredible, it's important to acknowledge other landmark WWE storylines that have left their mark on wrestling history. Some examples include, and it goes on to say some of the ones we've covered already, Austin McMahon, Taker Michaels, Hogan Andre, Rock Cena, NWO in WCW, although that's a WCW feud, so that's not really relevant to this one. And then in conclusion, while the Bloodline storyline is certainly among the top in WWE history due to its depth, character development, and emotional investment, whether it's the absolute best depends on your perspective and the era of wrestling that resonates most with you. Many fans may argue that classical rivalries like Austin versus McMahon or The Rock versus Cena carry their own weight in terms of historical impact, but in terms of the current product and ongoing narrative, the Bloodline is undoubtedly one of the best in recent memory. And I think that's really important as a nice little note to finish this video on. When it comes to people saying the best of all time, whether we're talking about matches, superstars, feuds, storylines, whatever it is, I don't think there's ever one specific correct answer. I think it depends the era of professional wrestling you grew up watching, whether, characters, what impact they had at the specific time of their match, of their feud, of their storyline, whatever it would be. I think there's so many layers to address when it comes to determining what the best of all time is. However, what we can do is look at the current product and the last 10 or so years. Is the Bloodline storyline the best story in the last 10 years? I think undoubtedly so, yes. And so that's going to bring us to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I apologise, there has not been many videos on this channel at all for the last few months. My life has been a whirlwind. I've been getting our kitchen completely redone, so I've not been able to record pretty much anything during the day. Otherwise, you'll just hear drills and hammers, and it would just not be a good experience for you as a listener or me as someone making a video. But we are hopefully back. I've got some really nice ideas. I've still been watching the product. Do not worry. I've been watching literally everything. So I'm fully up to date. I know what's happening. And it's just in a really exciting spot at the moment. We're getting to Rumble season, which is the most wonderful time of the year. So we'll have so many videos, Survivor Series, the Rumble, WrestleMania coming up in the new year. So much to look forward to. So subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of that. We will be back to weekly wrestling content if we can. And yeah, thank you for watching.